Anybody ever see a movie called Heathers from 1989 starring Winona Ryder, Christian Slater, and it also has Shannon Doherty? A little bit of a controversial movie, I would say, because it's about teenage unaliving, and it was a black comedy, but of course I don't think would be okay with today's audience. But I've always liked this movie because I was a big fan of Winona Ryder. Just a very well acted movie. But anyway, it starts off with Winona Ryder. She plays Veronica Sawyer. She wants to be a part of like this Queen Bee popular trio of girls in the school, and they're all named Heather. So there's Heather Chandler, who I'm going to call Red Heather. She's like the top Queen Bee. Heather McNamara, who's the cheerleader. She's the yellow Heather. And then there's Heather Duke, played by Shannon Doherty, who's the green Heather. And so it starts off with them doing like mean girl stuff. Like they make Veronica forge a letter from one of the jocks to like one of like the not popular girls. What's her face? They called her Martha Dump Truck, but her name is Martha Dunsong. And so these two jocks, Kurt and Ram, like they, passed on this fake letter to her from one of the jocks. She like, brings it over to them, and they're like, they laugh, But that's the kind of stuff that they do, like the Heathers. They just do mean girl stuff. And so, Veronica's not really into it, but she still wants to be a part of them. Well, during this scene, too, she also meets JD, played by Christian Slater. And he's, kind of mysterious, new to the school. So she's just like, ooh, mysterious. But anyway, later on, she runs into him at the convenience store, and she tells him that she's going to a party with Heather Chandler, Red Heather. Like a college party, and he's just like, yeah, have fun with that. Well, anyway, it shows her at this party. She's clearly uncomfortable. She gets sick. She kind of ruins it for Heather Chandler, and Heather gets really pissed off at her, and she's just like, you stupid fuck. And she's like, you goddamn bitch. And then she's just like, transfer to Jefferson, transfer to another school, like, you're not gonna be a part of our group anymore, blah blah blah. And so that pisses off Veronica. And so like later on, she runs into JT, like, well, actually, he goes to her house. And so I guess, he finds out about what happened. And so, like, they go to Heather's house the next morning. And so Veronica's wanting to play, like, a little prank. And so JD's just like, like, how about we just give her some Drano? And she's just like, no, that'll kill her. And so she's thinking more like something gross, like milk and orange juice, have her drink it or something. So like they pour that in a cup, but he still pours Drano in a cup. So she like, goes in for the wrong cup, the Drano cup. So like, they go to her room, they wake Heather up, and, she's just like, what are you doing here? Blah, blah, blah. And so JD's like, hey, I made you this hangover drink. And she's like, I'm not going to drink that piss. And he's like, well, I knew this would be too good, too much for you. And so she reaches for it and drinks it. And, she right away just over a glass table. And what was funny is her last words was corn nuts, which the night before at the convenience store, that's what she asked for, which, I mean, it was kind of funny, but I mean, obviously the unaliving part is not funny. Well, anyway, they can't believe what happened. They're in shock. But JD's just like, well, we got to make this look like she did it. So, like, he has her forge a letter in Heather's handwriting because she's really good at that. And so he's walking her through it like it's all casual. And she's like, it seems like you've done this before. Well, anyway, the next day they find out what happened, that Heather is no longer, here. And so, like they show them at the funeral later. And so Heather McNamara, Yellow Heather, she's just like, hey, can you like come with me to a double date with Kurt and Ram, please? Which I think is kind of a weird place to like, do a whole double date plan at your best friend's funeral, but whatever. She goes to the date, but that ends up not working out either. The jocks are doing something stupid, like tipping cows, getting drunk. Well, anyway, JD's there too, or not with them, but like, he sees them. And so Veronica ditches all of them and goes with JD. And so yeah, like later on, she finds out at school, Veronica, that the jocks told a horrible rumor about her, like at that date, that they were both like, and she was just like, oh, gross. And then like of course, her and JD do this little, prank plan or whatever, to beat her in the forest. And so JD tells her, like, hey, well, let's, use these bullets. Like, they're not real bullets, but they'll scare them. And she's just like, okay. So, like, the next day, they beat her in the forest. And so she's, having them kind of like be at the right spots. Well, anyway, JD comes out with a gun, pops one of them, and he goes down. And so she starts laughing because she thinks like it isn't real, like it's just to scare them. Well, the other dude starts hauling through the forest, and she's just like, it's fine, but JD's just like, no, we gotta get him. So he's like chasing after the other one. That's when it's coming to her. She's just like, maybe this is real. So she goes to checks on the one that's not, standing anymore. And so JD finally gets the other dude. And so, she finds out what's happening and that JD's like actually like kind of a psycho. And so like the rest of the movie is just kind of like, her trying to like distance herself from him. Meanwhile, he's getting together with Heather Duke because she wants Heather Chandler's spot. She wants to start wearing red and be the queen bee. And so JD's like, I can make that happen, but can you make the whole school sign this big petition on, he gives her like a bogus reason, but it's really, like the whole like teenage unaliving seems to be like the trend or the theme throughout the movie. But he's such a psycho. He wants to do that to the whole school. So he's basically passing around this fake petition and getting all the kids to sign it as if like they're signing up to do some like mass unaliving event or whatever. So like towards the end of the movie, like Veronica catches wind of all of this, and she stops him in his plan. But like towards the end, like, cause he set up like, like explosive devices all around the school, during a pep rally. So she like goes in there, tries to stop him and this and that. And she does, she's successful at it. He ends up unaliving himself with the explosive devices, towards the end. And so she's like, defeated, whatever. And then she goes up to Heather Duke because she sees her wearing like Heather Chandler's like little red scrunchie. She takes the scrunchie, snatches it from her head, and wears it herself, so she's like the new queen bee. And then like the movie just ends like that. But just throughout the movie, there's these crazy one-liners, and it's just very like, it's got these dark themes, but for some reason I will still watch this over and over because I don't know why. It's just a well-acted movie, and it's just got funny one-liners in it. So if you're not too sensitive with the subject, I would suggest it because it's a classic. I did hear that they made they either remade it or what, but like I'm sure it's trash. I'm not even gonna bother with that with remakes, but yeah, I would suggest watching this one though.